Yes, there's no question that we trust Coach Belichick, but guess what? Coach Belichick is not on the field executing the game plan. He's not the one going out there and playing the actual games. You still have to have a guy that goes out there and execute, and that goes to what I am talking about. I'm talking about experience. A guy in Tom Brady who has seen every coverage, seen every defense, has seen almost every concept that you can possibly draw up on offense, and you're going to compare that to a guy in Jarrett Stidham who had the one pass that we saw last year was intercepted for a touchdown against by Jamal Adams.
No, of course not.
Max.
Of course not. But Stidham is approaching his physical prime, and Brady is way past his. Brady's declined year over year the last several years pretty dramatically when you really look at it. But beyond that, I'm not doubting Arians and Leftwich's ability to adapt their offense, right? Because they're pros and they're great pros. But really, the no risk it, no biscuit offensive philosophy is diametrically opposed to the way Brady has always played. So that's going to be interesting to see, as opposed to Stidham with Belichick, who has been brought up in that system as Tom Brady's understudy. And Stephen A., you mentioned the fact that, like, they even have Wirfs. They jumped one spot in the draft, 14 to 13, to grab a guy who some people on this show predicted would be the first offensive tackle taken. And they got a really good value there to protect Tom Brady. And you contrast that to the Patriots' offensive line. They draft Isaiah Wynn. He was banged up, and they let Nate Solder go, and that was probably a good thing for them. But they've had turnover and injuries on the offensive line. My point is, it's going to be even more impressive, given all those circumstances, if Stidham has a good year and they win 9 or 10 games. They don't have the offensive weapons. They don't have the protection. If he goes out and does it, what are we going to be saying this time next year?
Well, I think the key point that I made that I think y'all are glossing over is Arians' first year in the NFL as a head coach, when he took over in impromptu fashion because of the health of Pagano. Pagano had to address his health, and he took over an Indianapolis coach with a very young Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck's completing just 54% of his passes, and still Bruce Arians guided them to a 9-3 record. Why is that relevant to this conversation? Because thrown into the Lions' den in a very impromptu fashion in his very first year in Indy, he had to make that adjustment from being an assistant to being the head man for the season, although, you know, people consulted with Pagano and all of that other stuff. The bottom line is Bruce Arians was thrown into the Lions' den and handled it. In this particular instance, no, he hasn't coached Tom Brady before, but it's Tom Brady. He hasn't coached Rob Gronkowski before, but it's Rob Gronkowski. And then you couple that with guys he already has had under his wing in Evans and Godwin and Brate and Howard. What do you have? You have an arsenal, big-time arsenal, the likes of which is expected to wreak havoc throughout the National Football Conference. That's what I'm talking about here. That's why I go with Arians and Brady. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.